Patrick and Tony. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Council. Yeah, we got a few bid acceptances, approvals for you guys. I'll let Pat go through them. He's our Timber Sales Program Manager.
Yeah, good afternoon, members of council. Yesterday we opened some bids, and so yeah, we're wanting some permission to accept. So starting on page 40, we'll go over the BFS lower cable unit. So we only had two bidders on this one. Neither one of them are tribal members, unfortunately. The high bid went to Bitterroot Contracting LLC. They put down $14 a ton for the Douglas fir and others, and they put down $8 for the whitewoods. That's a total value of $268,528. So that's the first one.
Questions from council on that? Yeah, Anita, go ahead.
Sorry, you said it, but there was no tribal bidders at all?
Yeah, that's correct. And this was, if you remember, this was the cable logging only for these sales due to the topography being a little steeper. So I know that since I've been here about 5 years, we haven't really gotten any tribal members who are doing that kind of logging. I don't know if Tony can add more to that, but.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we don't have any tribal member cable loggers. And these areas in the Boulder area, we know is very steep and required simple cable extraction of this timber. So I've talked personally with a few tribal members in the past to try to get them introduced and wanting to get into the realm of line logging or partnering up or buying in somehow. But unfortunately, right now, we don't have any tribal members that have, we may have some tribal members that have some old line logging equipment, but none that are partaking in any activity at this moment.
Go ahead, Ellie.
I'd make a motion to accept the high bid for the BFS lower cable logging unit.
Motion by Ellie to accept the high bid, second by Bing. All those in favor? Unanimous? Ben's out of the room. Okay. Patrick?
You ready to move on to the next?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. So we'll move on, page 41. This was a smaller sale, Sunny Slope 5 and 10 combined logging unit. We had one bidder, Corville Logging. They put $16.10 down for the Ponderosa Pine, $21.17 for the Douglas fir and others. Total value of that one, $20,669.81.
Any questions on this one, council? Motion by Bing to accept the loan bid for the Sunny Slope combined logging unit. Oh, a high bid, excuse me. A high bid. Second by Jimmy. All those in favor? Motion approved.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next on page 42. This is the Magpie Aspen Enhancement Logging Unit. This was another smaller one. This also only had one bidder, Brass Logging. He put $9 for Ponderosa Pine saw logs, $23 for the Douglas fir and other species. The total value after TSI of $38,844.
Motion by Ellie, second by Anita. Approve the Magpie Aspen Enhancement Logging Unit. All those in favor? Unanimous, Len out of the room.
Okay. So this is the last one, and this is the upper cable from the BFS. We had the same two bidders, but this one actually went to Pyramid Mountain Lumber Inc. They put down $13.04 on Douglas fir and others. They put down $5 on the whitewood saw logs, and after TSI, total value of that is $139,704.56.
Motion by Martin to approve the bid by Pyramid Mountain for the EFS upper cable logging unit. Second by Ellie. All those in favor? Unanimous and out of the room.
And yeah, that's all I got. Thank you for your time, members of council.
Hold on for a second. Anita has a question.
What are whitewood saw logs?
So that would be your subalpine fir, your grand fir, your Engelmann spruce, and they also put lodgepole pine in there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, guys. We'll be back in a few weeks here. We got another bid opening for the Boulder tractor side. That's coming up here in a couple weeks, so see you soon.
See you later. Next, we have the HRD.
Hi, this is Josie Drennan with the HRD.
Josie,
Hi.
go ahead.
All right, so let me share it. So I am the program manager for the child care block grant, which we help low income families with their childcare costs. And right now we are, we're running into the issue of the state raised their childcare rates back in July. And right now we have parents having to pay the difference because our daycare providers are state licensed. And so they go off of the state rates. Previously, we had, this is what the CCBG current rates are right now. But back in July, this is what the state had raised their rates to, and they also changed the ages because with COVID and everything, they raised their rates significantly for school-aged kids because they had a lot of kiddos in their facilities, remote learning from the daycare facilities. So right now we're running into the issue that this is what CCBG pays, this is what the state pays. Well, the difference that the daycare pays from what childcare block grant pays, parents are having to pay that difference out of pocket on top of the 5% monthly copay that they pay as well. So we were just wondering if we would be able to amend the plan to get it to match the state rates.
Anita.
Thank you for bringing this forward as well. I think that Vice Chair Lent Two Teeth had brought this up, that some of the parents were saying there was a difference and that childcare had gone up.
Right, and we couldn't do it last fiscal year just because of our budget. But this year we made some changes on what was being paid out of the CCBG budget to make it possible for us to finish paying the rest of this fiscal year at the state rates.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Anita.
I would make the motion to approve the resolution for the block grant plan of changes.
Motion by Anita to approve the resolution. Second by Ellie. All those in favor? Motion pass. Len out of the room. Do you have anything else for us?
No, I do not. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. All right. Natural Resource Department and Scott Johnson from the Roads Program giving an update for us. Benefit of people watching. Today is Ellie's birthday. So please, if you see her out there on the street, wish her a happy birthday. Hello, Scott, are you there? Okay, Scott, you're up.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Council.
Good afternoon, Scott.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I see that you're running a little ahead of schedule today. I don't have my official presenters there, but they should be there within the next 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm not sure if you want to skip me and come back to me, or if you want me to talk to you right now.
Well, Scott, you're the last person on our agenda.
Okay.
We can stall and a little bit. I guess I would have one question for you, Scott,
Yeah.
in relationship to the winter snow plowing and sanding and stuff.
Mhm.
You know, it seems like we were having quite a few folks requesting sanding on roads because of the way that the winter shaped up. I don't know how you've been able to deal with that.
Okay. Well, I haven't had too many calls into my office. The calls that I've had, maybe I've only had one or two a week, if that. And we've addressed those as they came in. But if most of the time when people call in, they're asking for sanding or something, and a lot of times they aren't sure if it's tribal housing or our program or the county. A lot of them are confused on who's maintaining those roads. Just to be clear, I guess ours are the home site, the main home sites. We have I think it's 23 miles in 19 different locations that we do. So I guess I encourage everybody to direct phone calls to me so I can figure out and address all the calls that come in on whether it's ours, and we'll take care of them as soon as they come in. And then if it's somebody else's, I have contacts to continue the to address the concerns that people have.
Thank you, Scott. Bing has a question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, who takes care of the roads up there, the main roads up there in the home sites, when there's ice all over those roads up there and a bus can't even drive up the road to pick up the kids? So I was wondering whose responsibility is that? Is that your guys, or whose responsibility to keep those roads sanded for those buses to get up to pick up those kids up there, especially in July? Up there, our bus driver's scared to death to go up there with her bus because of those roads being so icy. And to this day, they're still kind of icy. Yesterday, before the snow came, but I'm just wondering whose responsibility is that?
Yeah, Schley is ours, and we have been trying to pay attention to that. But if there is more concerns and it needs to be checked more often, just let me know, and I'll make sure it's checked more often. But we have been getting people out there every day.
Yeah, but there's been up there, I seen them up there plowing the road and things, but there's no sand being put on those roads up there, you know, especially for the buses. I know the other day when she came back from to let the kids off from school, she wouldn't even drive up there. She let them off at the lower road, cross the highway, and their parents had to go down across there to pick up the kids. But I don't know. That road is it's awful with ice up there. And I just, like I say, she's scared to even drive up there with that bus because with pickups being parked on the road, trucks being parked on the road, broke down and whatnot. It's just hard for her to get around up there. And then with all that ice on the road up there, it makes it worse. So.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely pay more attention to that and get that addressed and keep that sanded for the bus drivers.
One question, Scott, in your plowing equipment, is every plow equipped with a sanding device?
Yeah, it is now. We have 5 plows and 5 operators to do those roads.
And they have a sander on the back?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anita?
Just real quickly, Scott, thank you for letting us know who's responsible. I know it kind of emails went around and around there for a few days. I had the same complaints down at Dixon agency there. And I know back where we lived, that snow hit and then it melted and it just a glare of ice. Well, then it come along and it snowed. And then yesterday the wind went and it's just back to a sheet of ice, and it's pretty treacherous for people.
Okay.
So kind of concerning. Something that maybe you guys can keep an eye on and make sure that it is gravel to where people aren't sliding around in their cars or they're past their parking lots. But yeah, it's been a terrible winter for ice. And I know the other day when we were in Missoula, this lady told us that she was an ER nurse and she must work part-time at the hospital and then run over and help with blood. And she said there was 21 people admitted that morning from falling down, ice accidents. So I think it's something we should try to keep an eye on. I appreciate it. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, so Scott, one of the issues, that's going with the trends we're having, last 5-10 years for milder winters, we end up with more freezing thawing events, more icing. So we're becoming more like the lower Columbia every winter that we're proceeding in. And so I guess what I would encourage you and then all the other programs that you work with for all the roads is just to make sure that everybody's always got sanding equipment, because that's kind of a normal, either de-icing or sanding equipment, because kind of the normal protocol anymore to prevent, the sliding vehicle accidents, safety for children, for buses and access. And then just like Anita mentioned, simply falling down on roadways as you're walking on them. So that's appreciated. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, if anybody has any calls in, just direct them to me and I'll address them. I guess what we're going to talk about today is something that's been a long time coming, I guess, is Highway 93 from Ronan South. That whole 9 pipes to Post Creek section of highway is what we're going to be talking about. There's been a grant available the last few years, and we've been unsuccessful last year, and we weren't prepared to apply for it as far as getting prepared for the environmental and right of way and all that. It has to be really close to that. All that stuff kind of has to be figured out before we apply for this grant. But this upcoming grant, we're anticipating the grant to be a very large amount, in the $25, $50 to $100 million grant for it's called the Nationally Significant Federal Tribal Projects. So the grant can be used for pretty much stuff just like we're looking for Highway 93. We have been working very closely with MDT lately, and they're very on board to getting this 9 pipes and Post Creek sections applied for this grant funding, federal grant funding. And that's why I'm on today, is we have a consultant working for us that's helping us put together the grant, and that's DJNA, and they're working with other partners too, and very closely with MDT. And we have regular meetings with MDT and this consultant to do this grant application. And we're hoping to get the upcoming grant is, we're anticipating it'll be put out the end of this year. And like this previous one, this previous one was due, the applications were due on January 9th, but we didn't have all the ducks in a row. We didn't have the environmental as far along as we needed it, and we didn't have some of the right-of-way things as far along as we needed it to be to mitigate the risk for this grant. But I think we're anticipating by the end of April here to have everything pretty much prepared. So when the grant application, the notice of funding opportunity comes about, that we can apply for the next grant and get that sections of highway done. And as soon as Donnie and Ed get in there, we can have them go into the presentation that they prepared for us, for explaining into a little more detail on where we're at on this.
Sure, thank you, Scott. As long as you're talking about the federal funding and applying, is there, under the bipartisan infrastructure law, is there anything that's going to be of opportunity for you more specifically for the tribal roads program?
Um, I'm not quite sure, but I know I will be having a lot of meetings with the Transportation Planning Committee coming up in the next month and a half. And I'll be putting out my, I'll put out a preliminary tribal transportation plan. And that'll receive comments, and then we'll meet with the whole committee. And I have a lot of people on the committee that I'll reach out to, and then if we need to add more people to this tribal transportation committee, we can add that too, and get more involvement in it. So I have the 5-year plan is what I'll be working on mainly, and ultimately, if we have a long range transportation plan to prepare, that we're due for an update, and that'll be a big undertaking that'll require a lot of district meeting input from all the districts, and it'll be a big deal, and I think we can make it whatever we want.
That's good. I know there's a lot of different ways to get it at that new funding through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and there's a lot of different categories that, from resiliency for adaptive to fire, where you can go out and start replacing plastic culverts that have been burning up, get ahead of that, to replacing bridges, to working on different roads within the tribal home sites. But I do know that a lot of our forest roads, they're kind of outside your, well, I guess they are, most of them are listed in your system, have wooden bridges that have a term lifespan, and a lot of those need to be replaced. So if there's any assistance you need from council to help apply for, put together information for capturing more of that bipartisan infrastructure law funding, then please let us know.
Yeah, I think I might prepare a document or some kind of presentation to kind of outline the what my program can cover. It's a little bit it's pretty broad as far as on the BIA tribal transportation inventory.
Started early.
Yeah. Hey, hi, Rich.
Sorry.
I was just going to explain real quick that on my tribal transportation inventory, the BIA inventory, it's composed of all the tribal roads, tribally owned roads, the state routes, and county routes. The tribal transportation funds can be used on a lot of different roads. It doesn't have to be just tribally owned roads, but it does have to be in this transportation plan that we're going to be coming up with a new one shortly. So anything that benefits the tribe, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a tribally owned road. We're going to try to come up with a new long-range plan that encompasses all that to make the transportation system better.
Scott, I see your co-presenters are in the room here with us now.
All right, welcome.
We're ahead of the schedule, gentlemen, so we're filling in for a few other things with Scott Johnson on roads program. So I'm not sure if there's anybody else you're waiting for, Scott, or not.
Okay, Donnie, is anybody else with you today?
It's me and Ed here, Scott.
Okay. But, Council, I'd like to introduce Donnie Pfeiffer, and he's with DJ&A, and he'll be presenting the details on kind of an update on the federal lands tribal, the tribal transportation projects grant funding that we're looking at getting.
Go ahead, Donnie.
Okay, members of the council, thank you very much for having us up again. It's great to be here, and I do have a couple extra, if anybody wants, I printed off, and there's some prepared slides on the agenda, I believe. There we go. And so as Scott said, we have some prepared material here just to the main intent is to provide an update to council for the project that we're working on with Rich and Scott, which is it's a grant application, so an opportunity to hopefully secure a large amount of federal aid through a grant called the Nationally Significant Federal Lands Tribal Project. And we were up at council in December, and our intent is to essentially just provide an update again today, and any questions or maybe be able to answer as they come up. But I just wanted to give overview of the scope and the schedule of the grant project. So. I don't know if, here we go. Maybe one more slide. Okay. So
if you just want to prompt me right here, if you just want to prompt me,
yeah,
just
okay.
let me know.
Okay, sounds good. So as I think most of you probably know, the 9 pipe section in what they've become to be called the Post Creek section are shown here on the map, which the 9 pipe section from Brook Lane to Gunlock Road on US 93. It's about 4.5 miles, and the Post Creek section from Gunlock to just south of Dublin Gulch Road, where it ties back in to the more modern section of 93, is about 3.3 miles. And right now, this grant application, we're proposing to include funding request that would include the ability to improve both of those 2 sections. So with the exception of the current Ronan North and Ronan Urban project, this would complete more or less the remaining 2 big sections over 7 miles there. So that's the nature of the project, and that scope of work was essentially defined in an environmental process, a NEPA evaluation in an SAIS in 2016. And so that environmental work, it's an important component of this grant application, which would be essentially followed to the point that it was described in that document. And then, that would prepare the readiness, or essentially be the guiding document to kind of what the road project would entail, and all the parts and pieces of it. Go ahead and go one more slide there, please. So our team, again, I'm Donnie Pfeiffer with DJ&A, and I'm the project manager working with Rich and Scott closely. In Whisper, yeah, thank you. We meet weekly just to make sure the project and work's going well. We've also got Ed Taves here as basically leading up the engineering inputs on the project. And Peter Walker Kelleher with DJ&A and Court Harris are also supporting efforts as well. And then we've got Takami Clark, who I believe is on the call here too today. And she's leading stakeholder engagement and public involvement. Okay. Go one more slide, please. Okay. So just to cover kind of a couple key highlights and updates from when we met here last December, we did hope to pursue initially the grant for the current cycle, which would have been due early January of this year. And the timelines around that and, working with MDT, who is obviously a close partner on this project, it wasn't possible. But with the new federal infrastructure law, which is called the BIL, it became increasingly apparent that not only is this federal highway program, the NSFL-TP program, going to be funded again next year, but there's even more funding available than there has been in the past. So knowing that, the decision was made to keep us moving forward and continue working on it to prepare for the upcoming cycle, which we're reaching out to federal highways, but it looks like that the next opportunity would likely be this coming fall. So that gives us a little more time to prepare and get things in order, and then apply for the grant this next cycle. And again, Rich, Scott, and Whisper have been the steering team that we're working with closely. And we've also been coordinating closely with MDT on this project. And they've provided us a lot of information related to existing plans at the Post Creek project, the Ronan Urban project. And there's also a feasibility study that's ongoing as well. And we're meeting with MDT on a bi-monthly basis, more frequently, but in a bigger group on a bi-monthly basis. And another big piece of this is reaching out to stakeholders. We've identified about 70 stakeholders so far, and it's been going well with a lot of support for the overall effort and grant application. As far as readiness, what we call readiness anyway, would be all the parts and pieces that would not only go into applying for the grant, but also showing that the project could be delivered in a fairly fast manner, if you will, which would essentially mean that it would have to be ready for construction in the year 2026. That does seem like a ways away, but there's a big project, and from project delivery standpoint, that's fairly fast. And then as far as some of the specifics that go into the application, I just kind of want to touch on real quick that we put together a lot of appendix and information that kind of goes into what's called a benefit cost analysis. If you're familiar with federal grants, that's kind of the number that they look at pretty hard. That weighs the overall cost of the project and the different things that go into the benefits of the project. So from wildlife crossings to traffic, things like that. And there's a lot of information that goes into the application in the appendix and whatnot, as well as the cost estimate and what we call the risk analysis. So those are just some of the big components that go into the application itself, but just trying to reinforce the size of the project. As far as the schedule goes, as I kind of touched on, we started working on this in November of last year, and now we're into January. And our efforts are to try to get the application ready, kind of in a shelf-ready manner, so that when the next notice of funding comes out, which we think will be in August or September, but it could be sooner, that we're well on our way and prepared and ready to apply. So so currently our next push is to try to get that done by early April, and to continue to work with Rich and Scott and MDT to work out some of the funding and project delivery agreements and arrangements that are necessary, with the hopes of between May and September being able to refine the application and working on the parts and pieces that are a little harder to pull together, and setting us up for potentially bringing in supplemental grants to this larger grant as well. And then again, October to December of next year is when we would anticipate applying. And if it's granted and things go well, award could be as early as next January. So I think that's kind of all the prepared material, and all I have. Thanks again for having us up, and I'd open it up.
Yeah, Rich, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I wanted to get Donnie and Ed and the group here in front of the new council that were just seated. We did come in, I think Donnie, well, Jim, you've been here before, and this is a long process, right? This is the last two major sections that need to get done on the People's Way. And I just want to encourage the council to continue to help us. And we're going to probably need your help with our US senators and the congressmen on getting letters of support, which I believe they will for this stretch of road, or these two stretches of road. And, you know, I just think we're doing a really good job. This was kind of started by Dan Lozar. He left. We're picking it up. Scott's taking the lead with Whisper and I as his co-helpers, so to speak. But if you ever have any questions on roads, go right to Scott. He is your roads engineer for the tribes. And yeah, I just want to say welcome. Nice to see you in person, and all the new council, and thank you.
Thank you, Rich. We got Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Rich, and crew. So is there a chance that there'll be any kind of a pedestrian walkway along this section? Or was that just even a possibility with the environmental stuff?
I think there's always that possibility, and it's always in the planning process. This particular grant, though, we're looking at the road specifically, and making sure that we can provide a great grant submission to the federal highways, that it's lower risk, meaning, you know, there's a lot of water around 9 Pipe, and we have our grizzly bear issues down there that we need to mitigate for and protect the bears. You know, that's what we want to do, while also making it a safer highway. So yes, Ed's going to talk.
Yeah, if I could Ed Taves, and good to see you folks again. The SCIS, when it was signed over 10 years ago, provides for a shared use path throughout the length of Post Creek Hill and 9 Pipes to connect with the shared use path planned for the Ronan section, which will connect into the existing shared use path that goes through Pablo and into Polson. So it is planned for that entire stretch.
So in regard to that, Ed, Rich, and Donnie, when you're talking about maybe looking at other funding sources in this package, is that what you're thinking about, that the shared youth path could be funded by another bipartisan infrastructural law opportunity for whatever it might be? There's so much in that bill. It's incredible, the amount of funding. So
Yeah.
I guess and if that's the case, is there ways to reach farther than this project area for particular things? Like, say, if you wanted to put in electric charging stations along the full route to the reservation on Highway 93, is there a way to tie it into this project as far as a submittal?
I think that the short answer is, yeah, there is. And we're doing our best to try to understand, as information comes to us, what that exactly looks like in the bill. But we also feel that kind of putting the NSFLTP grant, which does appear to be just a really good project. When you look at the criteria of that grant and how this will compete and stack up, it does look like that could be sort of the big grant. And then once that's secured, so to speak, or you know, that starts to look realistic, then and as we better understand the different smaller grants in the bill, like Animal Crossing grants are in there. We know they are. We just haven't seen any detail about, you know, how those will be how you can compete for them, or electric charging stations is the same thing. We know those are in the bill. Don't know exactly how that'll compete. We are gonna look at that and basically make recommendations on, do you put that into this NSFLTP grant request or put out supplemental grants in addition to this one that could be rolled into the larger project?
And if I could add to that.
Yeah, go
Mr.
ahead, Ed.
Chairman, from a practical standpoint, this grant would have to include that shared use path. Because original analysis by MDT, it was literally impossible to build it separate because the 9 pipes corridor is pretty tight and pretty sensitive. So in a lot of cases, there's very little room. So the path is going to have to be built in conjunction with the highway section with positive separation. And that's really almost impossible to do that in 2 separate efforts. So we would have to design and construct the section under this grant.
So along with that, then, if you're talking about, it's gonna have to, yeah, absolutely makes sense. So if we were to continue south on pedestrian pathways going south from this project, where we don't have anything, then it would just tear into this project, would hopefully provide more, because I know there's funding for that also in the bipartisan infrastructure law. So I guess I'm not sure if it's you lay the groundwork for that continuation with this submittal, even though it's going to be a separate submittal later on. That, I guess that's the way I look at it. I know there's actually some funding for T&E species also. So when you're talking about, exceeding the take permit for grizzly bears on this stretch of highway, there's certainly some funding for wildlife crossings that you seem to be come to bear. No pun intended.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know that I have a lot to add, Mr. Chairman, other than I think that, yes, we'll continue to look at opportunities in addition to the core grant. And it's, I guess, just in general, an exciting time to, to kind of see this stuff unfold in the new bipartisan infrastructure law. It's there's a lot of funding opportunities available that we've never seen in a long time. And it's certainly exciting.
I guess that's the challenge, is that, you kind of got something here that's shelf ready almost, nearly. I mean, it's so, and time is of the essence, because a lot of this is competitive. And so to be timely with the bipartisan infrastructure law and seeking that up, bringing home the resource to fund through this bill, it really has to do a lot of planning, have to really jump on it. Go ahead, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I do know that I've asked Donnie with DJNA and Ed to keep a lookout for those opportunities, and they have been kind of our go-to group that lets us know when there's opportunities that we can put in, and I expect they'll continue that and look at the infrastructure bill that both Whisper and I are going to join the webinar coming this Friday. So we're looking, and we're going to come back to you, hopefully with great projects, to ask for your approval to submit.
Sounds really good. I know that guidebook just came out yesterday. So yeah. Any questions for Scott or Ed? It's good to see you again, Ed. I've never met you, Donnie, but good to meet you.
He's a good young man. He's from Libby, though.
Well, go Loggers.
Chairman, members of the council, it's great to be up here. Wonderful seeing you again. And as Rich said, we're very excited about these opportunities and can't wait to continue working here and hopefully help find more solutions here.
Okay, well, thank you. Good to have your report. Thank you. Thanks for the update. Thank you, Scott. That was our last agenda item, unless there's any other quick updates council wants to do. If not, Accept the motion to adjourn. Motion. Don't wrestle over it. No. Motion by Anita. We are adjourned.